over the last few years, what we have heard is that AI is going to revolutionize healthcare. But what does it really mean? So there are 3 A's that are required for effective healthcare. Healthcare has to be available, it's got to be accessible, it's got to be affordable, meaning we should have the best available medicines, doctors, surgical instruments, labs, everything that makes healthcare work, it has to be available. You could make the case that in some countries like the US, we have the best healthcare available. The next step is accessibility. Yes, you've got great healthcare. Can people who need it access it? Can a patient get the best surgical technologies, the best medicines, the best injections available to them when they need it? The third is affordability. And can everybody afford the best healthcare they need? So these are the 3 A's that need to be effective. They've always been a challenge globally. The hype has been that AI has come in here now 3-4 years ago and is going to democratize healthcare for everybody. You can get the best healthcare anytime, anywhere for zero cost or minimal cost. And okay, what kind of examples were there for that type of AI supercharging of healthcare? One of the hypes we have heard for the last couple of years is that healthcare providers will be replaced by AI. Doctors, dentists, nurses, radiologists, they'll all be replaced by AI. Well, sounds fantastic. We've also heard that AI will cure diseases like cancer in 2 years and 3 years. We've also heard that medicine will be very personalized in a couple of years, meaning if you have a particular disease, you'll have a medicine ready for you that's very specific for your type of genetics and DNA. Sounds fantastic. Well, what exactly is the reality? What are we dealing with day to day? So if you look at that, what kind of tools has AI made available for biopharma and for med tech? How advanced are these tools? If you say that we're going to have cancer medication available in 2 years, if you say that robots are going to perform surgeries in 2 years, what's actually happening? The reality is we're very far away from that. In terms of curing cancer and other terminal diseases, what AI is able to do so far is twofold. One is it's able to help speed up clinical trial data management to get clinical trials completed faster, from 2 years down to, say, 1.5 years to 9 months even. Hopefully, if that continues to happen, we'll have a slightly increased 10, 25, 30% faster pace from drug identification to drug approval, so that diseases like cancer could potentially be cured faster, but we're far away from that. The regulatory authorities have certainly interfered in the process and made sure that we put in the right checks and balances for AI tools so that they don't give us the incorrect drug results. One area where we have seen some amount of improvement is companies like Intuitive Surgical that have integrated AI completely into their robotic surgery devices, where if you're in a rural location, hundreds of miles away from a good hospital, a surgeon in New York could potentially perform surgery in, say, Bangalore by manipulating virtually the arms of a robotic surgical device. That's very experimental. That's prone to failure, but that's an area where we're getting some improvement. Okay, does that mean that robots will replace surgeons anytime soon? Not in the next 7 years, not in the next 10 years, most likely not even in the next 20 years. For the simple reason that the risk to patients is simply extremely too high, and how many patients are going to be willing to undergo surgery from a mechanical robot? The risk is still very real. So we're in a very early stage of this, extremely early stage, and we're kind of maybe in a couple of years we'll see some good products come out of the robotic space. If you look at patient health, what kind of tools and devices are available to directly support patient health using AI? So the hype was, we're going to have on-demand, cheap, and freely available medicines and devices for all. What kind of devices are we thinking about? Yeah, we have pacemakers, we have hearing aids, we have contact lenses. Okay, those are the basic things. The reality is that the good news is some bio-wearables, like continuous glucose monitors, heart rhythm monitors, blood pressure monitors, they've been introduced, they've been approved. AI is being used to get the data off of those platforms and provide real-time insights. So if you're a diabetic patient, you may say, okay, I just ate a donut and my blood sugar is spiking. Okay, maybe I need insulin. So there is a certain amount of success in the biowearable space with minimal and basic effectiveness that have been rolled out in the last maybe 3.5 years. The challenge, however, there is these devices are expensive, they are inconvenient to wear, and they're prone to errors. So now many of these biowearables are coming with AI-enabled interpretation of data. At the same time, there are cautions to say the companies that make these devices are not responsible if these devices give you incorrect results. Some patients have already ended up in the hospital because these devices malfunction. There are cybersecurity issues around insulin pumps that have been hacked, and people end up with too much insulin, too little insulin, go into coma, that sort of thing. The reality is we're at the very early stage of biowearables. The CGT area, that has had more hype than any other space, that is cell and gene therapy, incurable cancers, childhood leukemias, genetic diseases. The promise was that personalized medicine, cell and gene therapy will help create very targeted medicines for each individual patient through autologous gene therapy, hopefully someday allogeneic gene therapy. Again, those have been extremely minimally ineffective. Patients have died at a high and alarming rate to the point that the Food and Drug Administration has come in and said, you need to stop some of these trials. There's a lot more to be understood about the human DNA before we can actually start making personalized medicines. That's a bit of a challenge. The biggest challenge when we talk about affordability, payers, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, insurance payers, or TRICARE, and other parts of the world, maybe government payers, they're balking at paying for biowearables. They're balking at paying for cell and gene therapies. One, because they're too expensive. Cell and gene therapy can run up to $500,000 a year per patient, which is very expensive, and $500,000. And in some cases, the payers are saying, we just don't trust the effectiveness of this product. So that's kind of where the reality is. AI is helping provide insights and provide protein fold structures and closer pictures of human DNA, but it's nowhere. It's not even in beta version. It's in version 0 right now. You look at how can you optimize caregivers? AI is going to optimize caregivers. What does that mean? Caregivers can be doctors, surgeons, lab techs, therapists. The idea is that where the world over, especially in the US and other parts of the world, we simply don't have enough caregivers available. We don't have enough doctors and nurses and physicians, surgeons, or behavior therapists or psychiatrists available where they are needed. And so the idea was AI is going to make sure we're going to do flawless matching of caregivers to patients. Okay, you got this problem, we got a caregiver for you, ready to go right away. Well, that's never happened. The closest reality in that space is we have got some amount of opportunity to improve schedules, optimize schedules of where caregivers are to where the patients are and match them. Right now, the effectiveness of that across the healthcare spectrum is less than 25%. AI is helping in some settings to make sure that we provide better caregiver optimization in their schedules. But we are far, far away from any kind of flawless on-demand matching. And availability becomes a challenge here because if you're in a rural area and you need an in-person connection with a physician, you're kind of at a loss because you'll have to go to a hospital 200-300 miles away to get the best care. One area there is some positive outcome here is that in behavioral health, there are quite a few apps that have come out on iPhones and Androids that young people, especially teenagers who may be in mental stress, can talk to those apps and they can talk them off a ledge, calm them down, then call protective services or medical services to help them in an emergency. So that's a spot of optimization and positivity we're seeing with AI. Again, there's also too many cases where those apps failed. They gave incorrect direction. And many people in distress are also talking directly to ChatGPT and Gemini 3 and so forth to interact with them as a friend or a human being in the hope that that AI tool can actually help them in their moment of crisis. There have unfortunately been some suicides and things that came out of that. So the schedule optimization, the connection of caregivers on demand to patients, that's got a long way to go, but that's an opportunity area for AI. If you look at, can AI actually manage an entire patient care setting? Can AI actually manage the interaction of how the nurse goes to the patient's home if it's a home-based patient care, or how the nurse handles things in an emergency room, how the doctor performs the surgery, and so on. The idea is that AI will smoothly manage caregiver events, meaning if you have a doctor with 50 patients to see, AI will so smoothly manage everything so that if I'm a doctor and I show up in an emergency room, everything about the patient that I need to know is right away on my tablet or iPhone. I can look at it immediately, deliver care to the best of my ability. Well, that's not even remotely close if you look at reality. Right now, the closest thing we have, we're working on what are called ambient listening solutions. Very, very basic. There are some AI-enabled tools. As a matter of fact, I'm helping develop some of those with some of our vendors so that as a nurse or a doctor is engaging with a patient, that AI tool can help chaperone that event, record that event, upload the event data into an electronic medical record, and then bring in a human in the loop like a supervisor to clean up the data. All that's doing so far, if it's successful, maybe it will save 20-30% of the caregiver's time so they can jump to the next patient quickly. That's good, that's okay. But the challenges we're hearing are these tools are not necessarily multilingual. They make a lot of mistakes. They put some incorrect information in electronic medical records. The integration between the listening devices like iPhones and tablets and the highly controlled electronic medical records like Epic or Cerner or what have you, those integrations are very early in their development right now. The biggest challenge here is that the convenience that you need for your mobile devices to be able to record the caregiving event, that convenience comes with a significant cybersecurity threat in the sense that you have Verizon or AT&T or what have you saving a lot of the recordings and the scribed version of the recordings in the public cloud and then translating it back and putting that back in the electronic medical record. Well, what happens if those cloud environments are hacked? Will a patient's social security number, birth date, personal videos, or interaction videos with the caregiver, they become public, they get hacked. You're talking about a significant cybersecurity event. And here in the US, Medicare information, social security information can be stolen by bad actors from those ambient devices. So the convenience that we are seeing is also significantly marred by the high degree of risk. This kind of brings up a key challenge with AI. So most of you may know, today there is no cybersecurity solution anywhere in the world that was designed for today's version of AI. What that means is the risk of having your AI-enabled data and devices being hacked is extremely high. We've already had at least 2 events where insurance company information was hacked by bad actors. Surgical devices and implantable devices were hacked by bad actors, whether it's a Medtronic insulin pump, whether it's a Scripps health system, electronic health records, electronic medical records being hacked, the cloud providers where United Healthcare, other payers store their patient data, those have been hacked. People have submitted fraudulent bills to Medicare, Medicaid here in the US. People have stolen information that belongs to patients, including their savings accounts information, such that is tied to their hospital payment systems. So the lack of cybersecurity that is matched specifically to AI technologies, especially the patient care setting, is a huge risk that is not addressed, that is wide open right now. And it's a matter of when, not if, we're going to see many more of these incidents, especially in the space of theft of voice and gestures. If you have a video of yourself speaking, interacting, a bad actor could use that to create an AI avatar of you and pretend to be you and talk to your banks and talk to your healthcare providers and use that for negative opportunities. So the patient care setting space is ripe for improvement with AI, but it's also at this point in a what I would call a high risk. If you then take a look at conversational AI, this is extremely popular now. Like I've said before, we don't have enough nurses, doctors, clinicians to help with all of the patients that we have. Many times we find that hospital systems would like to make sure that they optimize caregiver time. They want caregivers such as nurses, such as surgeons, doctors, therapists, to focus 90% or more of the time on directly taking care of the patients and less the administrative aspects. But a lot of clinicians and caregivers also have to spend a lot of the time calling patients, calling insurance companies, taking care of the administrative work. That sometimes takes up 50% of their time. Filing reimbursement claims, documenting patient interactions, calling to check in on patients, welcoming the patients to various tests, test centers, hospitals, and whatnot. And if we take all of those activities that caregivers are performing and have AI do that, could that help? And so the hype is that we're not going to need radiologists to talk to patients about their schedules. We can have an AI bot to take care of that. We don't have to have doctors talking to Medicare or insurance companies to make sure that they come in and help with administrative tasks. AI can take care of that. Well, the reality is all we have right now is a very basic set of maybe 2 or 3 startups that are running pilots, proof of concepts on very basic AI-assisted voice calling tools. So these tools can call on behalf of a hospital system, call a patient, check in on them. And in the future, the idea is that if the patient is wearing a biowearable that can signal their parameters like blood pressure, heart rate, and whatnot directly to the physician or to the AI agent, the AI agent can actually look at that information and say, oh, Mr. Smith, your blood pressure is higher, your insulin is higher, here's what you need to do. The idea is that get to a point where AI-enabled conversational tools can engage with patients as though they were physicians or caregivers and make things faster, smoother, much more effective. The challenge here is that these agents have not been around for more than 3 months or 6 months or 1 month in some cases. As I've engaged with the CEOs of many of these startups and even the bigger tech companies that are creating these agents, they put cautions on their tools saying this tool has not been proven yet, it's not fully approved, it can make mistakes, it may understand some inflections in voice or language changes and things like that. So they're prone to failure. So if you look at this entire list we've looked at, what is hype and what's reality? 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I fully expect at the current pace of growth that AI tools can make healthcare more efficient, save some time for doctors, maybe deliver more profits to healthcare companies. But a rather large challenge is it's not just about the technology continuing to improve. I could go out there and find 2 or 3 very effective conversational AI platforms today that can do the job I need them to do. The problem is they've not been optimized for the risks of patient care. Cybersecurity has to catch up to AI used in healthcare. The insurance payers have to accept that the savings they get from AI, they'll translate and give them back to the patients in terms of lower insurance premiums, which so far they've not done. Physicians and nurses who are right now very concerned about if they will be held accountable for failures on the part of the AI tools, their malpractice insurance companies and lawyers, they need to also be comfortable that what happens if a patient has a fatality because a mistake was made by an AI tool. Those issues have to catch up slowly. One example that happened, I believe, about 6-7 months ago was a hospital system here used a conversational AI agent here in the US to call a patient to check in on their cardiac status and schedule the next appointment, to which the patient said, the left side of my neck is hurting. And the agent, the voice calling agent enabled with AI said, I repeat, do you want to come in next Tuesday? And the patient said, the left side of my shoulder is hurting. And the AI agent said, oh, you're not ready to make an appointment. Have a nice day, I'll call you back. The problem was that cardiac patient was having a heart attack and had to be rushed to the hospital. There are many, many situations where the intuition, experience, expertise, knowledge, ability to flex that a human caregiver or a doctor or a nurse brings to the table, AI is very, very far away from being anywhere close to being able to replace those caregivers. The good news is, yes, the hype, of course, that's why it's called hype. Hype is always going to be, I would say, for lack of a better word, hyperbolic. It's always going to show this outlandish things that could happen with AI in healthcare. If we can achieve 10% of the hype in the next 5 years, that itself will mean a significant improvement for patients beyond where we are today. Will we get there? How will we get there? in a role like mine, we have no choice. We face patients who don't have enough caregiver support. We don't have enough caregivers in the hospital setting, especially in the US. We have no choice but to push the limits of AI. That's our holy grail, where we can actually deliver some benefits to patients rapidly. We're balancing that with cybersecurity risk. We're balancing that with patient risk. We're balancing that with financial risk, because of course hospitals are certainly for-profit operations. And the most surprising thing for us was where we thought, wow, we have this great AI-based tool and patients are going to have their life made easier with this. Many patients are interacting very differently with the conversational AI tool than they would with a human. With a human, they have a conversation. With an AI bot, they just give 1 or 2 word answers. So those, and many of the patients don't like the very mechanical nature of these particular conversational tools. So if you look back, well, what does that mean? We started by saying the 3 A's of healthcare are very important: availability, accessibility, affordability. AI can help with all of those. It is starting to help, but on a 10-year cycle, we're in the very, very early stage. Since I'm in a role where I'm at the very cutting edge of pushing for all 3 A's to get better with AI, I see hope, but there's going to be some failures, some patient fatalities along the way, hopefully not too many. And we have to get to a point in the next 3 years, 5 years, when we start seeing some hard value coming out.